What if someone were to tell you that...
Oh, hold on. Go.
What if someone were to tell you that a chemical added to food could cause you brain damage, and this chemical could affect how your child's nervous system developed, leading them to have emotional or other learning difficulties? What if there is scientific evidence that these chemicals could permanently damage a critical part of the brain known to control hormones so that you or your child may have endocrine problems? How would you feel? Everything I just said, don't worry about it, Lynn, is true about MSG. Now I'm sure all of you have either eaten at Chinese or Japanese restaurants, or perhaps in high school, you ate school once. Either way, one thing I know for sure. You have had MSG. And perhaps you're one of the many that have been afflicted by it and don't even know it. I personally have suffered migraine headaches that are linked to MSG that I consume. And so today I'm going to show you the problem MSG does to our bodies, my plan to get this out of our diet, and how we will improve our health by avoiding it. First, let's look at how our bodies are affected by MSG. MSG has been found to be a cause of a number of health issues. It has been linked to the obesity of America. MSG causes brain damage, which in turn damages the endocrine system, which controls your appetite, and that causes obesity, according to Dr. Russell Blaylock, who has written 5 books on the subject. Diet and exercise, according to Blaylock, cannot always manage the weight of someone whose brain is permanently damaged by MSG. MSG also is a metabolic syndrome, which causes your metabolism to go way down, and that also lowers your rate that you burn calories, according to Russell Blaylock. And in hundreds of studies around the world, scientists create obese rats, according to the truthandlabeling.org. Now, there is no natural strand of an obese rat. They create them by inserting MSG into them when they are born. MSG triples the amount of insulin the pancreas creates, causing these rats to be obese. MSG has also been linked to the cause of migraines, according to the Truth in Labeling. That is the most common reaction found in MSG consumers. Ibuprofen, which is used to stop headaches and migraines, which is what I personally take, is actually known to be a glutamate blocker. It blocks glutamate in the brain. And glutamate, monosodium glutamate, same thing. MSG also affects the blood vessel vasoconstriction in your brain. And by vasoconstriction, I really just mean how the blood vessels in your brain contract and dilate. And if they dilate too much or contract too much, that causes inflammation and pain. Headaches. Now, 30% of you guys in this classroom, according to my survey, claim that you experienced migraines. Who knows what they're caused by? MSG has been linked to killing brain cells and brain damage. In a 25-year study, people that consume more soy products, which are high in MSG, had the greatest incidence of dementia and atrophy, according to Russell Blaylock, doctor, like I said. Mice injected with glutamic acid, also known as MSG, were found to have brain lesions. MSG has been linked to retinal degeneration. You're fine. And then in 1957, a study by Lucas and Newhouse, doctors, showed that retinal lesions were found in mice after 1 injection of MSG. And other studies also show that other lesions are caused in the brain by MSG. Now, in 1969, Schomburg studies showed that 43% of humans tested had adverse reactions to MSG, according to the truthandlabeling.org. Now, this study did not include the extra 41% that experienced chest pain, heart palpitations, headache, dizziness, vomiting, and that's just a few. Now, MSG is also an addictive additive, according to George Schwartz's In Bad Taste. It leaves you wanting more, which gives the phrase, "bet you can't have just one," a whole new meaning. That also explains how it leads to obesity. Now, as I stated earlier, I personally suffer from this food additive and have to be very careful about my intake of MSG or take medications. And I didn't even know it for months that it was the MSG that was causing my headaches. In my survey, 10% of you guys didn't even know what MSG was. Perhaps that 10% is actually the 30% also, or is part of the 30% that experience these migraines. And perhaps you are one of the many suffering, and you don't even know it. So now that we are definitely disgusted with the distaste of what MSG can do to us, let's take action and get this out of our diets. What time is it?
4:40. Yeah.
Okay. Now I propose that we all take the necessary action and avoid consumption of MSG. First step you gotta do, read your labels. And you need to be familiar with MSG's aliases. If it doesn't say monosodium glutamate on the box, don't be fooled. It may still contain MSG. You need to avoid glutamate, glutamic acid, monopotassium glutamate, hydrolyzed protein, and that's just to name a few. So if you want to get a full list of all the aliases MSG has, you can find a full list on the truthandlabeling.org. Now you also need to be familiar with ingredients that contain MSG, and that includes soy protein, whey protein, artificial flavoring, meat flavoring, modified enzymes, and once again, that's just to name a few. Next thing you gotta do is eat fresh, natural foods. Unadulterated foods are always clear of MSG. And you also need to avoid processed foods. And the best way to do that is to buy from local vendors or local markets that sell natural foods, such as co-ops. And the next thing you need to do is to ask your restaurants that you attend if their food contains MSG. It's best if you ask a manager because waiters and waitresses don't usually know. Now that we know how to avoid MSG, let's look at how this will improve our health. Dr. Alan Blaylock claims that his patients with migraines tells his patients with migraines to get off the soy, which is high in MSG, and their migraine headaches completely go away. Blaylock also tells his seizure patients to get MSG out of their diets, and it either reduces the number of seizures or it completely obliterates seizures. Blaylock also claims that 80% of his patients are basically problem-free after he tells them to get off MSG. My cousin Brad, who suffers from severe migraines, realized it was the MSG that he was consuming that was the cause. So he stopped consuming foods that he knew to have MSG, and his headaches went away. But when he does eat food that contains MSG, he takes Excedrin before to block the glutamate. So now that we know that MSG is a danger to our health, and we know how to avoid it, and we know how avoiding it will improve our health, we do not want to be a part of the 41% suffering from this additive. MSG causes a number of health risks to our population and should be taken out of our diet because avoiding it will reduce our health risks. I ask that all of you take the necessary precautions to avoid this dangerous additive. What if I were to tell you that a chemical in your food could be causing you brain damage and damage to other systems in your body, causing you discomfort and possibly a weight issue? What if I were to tell you that avoiding this chemical would prevent health risks for you and your children? What if I told you that this chemical could be life-threatening in some cases? That case may be yours. What are you going to do?